Guys, I have a confession. My pantry is crazy. There are so many things in there that don't even live in my pantry. Everything is every which way, and there is literally no order right now. And it may not look that bad from the outside, but let me tell you, there is so much stuff in there that doesn't need to be there, and it is not functioning well at all. But I actually think that this is absolutely fine, that our pantries are somewhere where there is stuff coming in and going out all of the time, and it just requires maintenance. No matter how well you organize it, it will always need a little bit of TLC. So if your pantry is a little bit out of control, come with me. Let's get these pantries overhauled and back in shape. When it comes to pantries, I highly recommend pulling every single item out. It really helps you to start with a new, clean slate, so I'm just grabbing absolutely everything out of my pantry. Did you guys see my ninja skills saving that jar? Yes, Jackie Chan, eat your heart out. As I am pulling all of these items out, it's a good time to kind of take stock of what you have here, what sort of items you think you might want to group together. That way, when you start getting to that organizing process, you've already got a good idea of what is in your pantry. Now, let us not talk about just how short I am, that I don't even with this stool get close to meeting the top of my pantry. But this is a good reminder that all that stuff that lives up the top, that gets pushed to the back, this is the opportunity to go through it all. I always tell my clients things look way worse before they look better, and so we are at that point in the organizing process where you have just made one hell of a mess, and this is a good time to, as you're pulling things out, start grouping them in the areas that you think you might put them back. So like items together, and it's also a good opportunity for you to have a look at what you want to keep in a certain area. So if you're going to declutter, if there's things that you can let go of, this is the time to do that. I actually empty this basket that I'm working on now, and I turn that into a rubbish basket. So that way I've got somewhere to get rid of all that stuff that I no longer want, and I can deal with what's recycling, what's going in the bin later, but at least it's out of my way and I can work with what's left over. One of the biggest decisions you will have to make when you are organizing your pantry is how much you want to do when you get home with your groceries. So if you are a really micro organizer and you want to take everything out of its packets and put it into all those containers, you can totally do that as long as you are prepared to continue doing it all the time. For me personally, I get really overwhelmed if I have to do too much when I've already got a heap of groceries. So I choose to leave as many things in their packets as I can, and then just put other items into containers that I need to fill up less frequently. So things like rice, flour, sugars, those sorts of items. And then I'm most happy to leave like snack items in their original packaging. One of the great things about going through your pantry is that you end up emptying some of these containers, and this is a great opportunity to give them a wash. It just helps you to reset things, and then if you want to put different items in these containers, they're all clean and ready to go. Okay guys, it's a new day. Today, I'm going to continue with my pantry. Yesterday, my body decided to drop its lollies, which when you have a broken pancreas happens sometimes, and so I just had to leave things where they were. Now I would just want to encourage you, if you are busy, if you have a chronic illness or stuff just happens in your life, this might happen to you where you'll get stopped like mid-job. So what I did yesterday, I had just put all of the like containers that I'd emptied out into the dishwasher, and then I realized things were going downhill. So all I did then was focused on getting things under control. So I just focused on moving as much as I could off our kitchen benches so our kitchen was still functional. We can live for one night without our dining table, knowing that I was going to get back to it as soon as I could. So this happens, but now I'm going to pick back up where I left off. It's also given me kind of, I guess, a chance to digest now that I've seen everything, what I've got where, how I want to reorganize it. If you haven't seen my video about my pantry, I'll link it up here for you, but basically it's the worst pantry in the world because I have the worst storage in my kitchen. But all that to say, we're going to make it work, and there's some things about how it was working before that I think I can swap around and move things to a better location, maybe pack things in a little bit differently. But let's get down to it. I'm going to start by like refilling some things, but just wanted to be real with you. Things went pear-shaped yesterday. It happens. Let's get going. This is a great opportunity to refill all of the things. It gives you a really good idea of how much of the items you have. So if you are like me and you use like an overflow pantry, this is the time to have a look at what you want to have in your everyday pantry and what you want to store elsewhere. Now, I know that there are lots of videos across YouTube and TikTok about people refilling it, and they're all perfect jars. And I just want to encourage you, if you have a real life pantry that doesn't look like that, it's absolutely okay. If you prefer to just leave things in their normal boxes, totally do that, because in the long run, it's whatever you are going to use and keep using that is the best option for you. Who cares how everybody else does it? In fact, I have avoided labels for like the longest time. We were playing salt sugar roulette for a while, and every time I need some bicarb soda, I'm never sure if it's icing sugar or bicarb soda. So I've introduced some labels just where I need them, and then I don't have to worry about exchanging them all of the time because it's only those few things. For most of you, you guys probably don't store your containers in your pantry, but I have no storage elsewhere. But I would tell you that doing your containers when you do your pantry is a great opportunity to give them a quick declutter while you're working out what sort of things you're going to use for storage there. That way you're getting two jobs done in one. Now that you have gone through your pantry and you have gotten all of those like items together, you've decided what you do and don't want, all of those expired foods are gone, it's time to start putting those items that you do want to keep back in your pantry. And this is the key moments where you start to think about, what are those items that I'm constantly using, what do I want to go where, and what should take up that prime real estate. Now, it is totally okay if you don't get it right first time. I am often finding myself tweaking things for the next couple of weeks, but as long as you sort of get it in so that the skeleton of the pantry is there, you'll be able to tweak it and it will run way smoother for you. I am so excited to show you the finished product of my pantry. I'm going to take you from top to bottom to show you how it all turned out and why I organized this way. So let's check it out. Ta-da! So this is our new and improved pantry. Now, there were some things that were working really well in our pantry before, but there were also some things that were living in prime real estate positions. So, for example, a prime real estate position in your pantry is going to be all of those shelves that you access most often. So those ones that are at eye level or just below, that is the stuff you want to have that you're accessing the most. So up the top of my pantry is where I keep the stuff that I use the least. So that is things like lunch bags, medicine things, thermoses, attachments for our blender that I use rarely, but I still need at hands access. And then when we come down, I have the stuff that I use fairly regularly, but that I don't really want my kids going into. So I actually moved these clear containers from my overflow pantry, which I have in my laundry. And these are really great. You could do your whole pantry in clear containers, especially if you are a visual person. This is a great way of keeping items together without losing that visual element. So I have moved our plastics and our overflow medicines up here so that if my kids need something, I can grab it really quickly, but it's also not in the way of our everyday. Now, this is my favorite shelf. It's where I go to the most often because it's at my eye level. This is where I'm keeping all of the sauces and spreads and salt and oil and things I'm using on the regular. I actually decided to move all of our sort of baking and pantry staples to the back. The reason I did this, even though I use them quite regularly, is I'm usually getting quite a few things out, so I can just move the things to the side, grab them out, and then put them back. But then those things that I'm grabbing multiple times a day are still at the front. I also keep all of our everyday medicine. So if someone needs some Panadol, some ibuprofen, some aspirin, kids Panadol, all of those things live in here, as well as some Band-Aids, so they're really quick and easy for me to access. Down on this shelf is where I keep our kettle and our toaster, as well as the cereals, which is the stuff my kids are using. So basically that's down at their eye level. And then down again, I have our snack items. So this is things like bread and crackers, things that I pack for my kids that go to day school in their lunches, as well as those sort of pantry items that we're using. Now that my kids are in the kitchen more, it makes sense for these baking items to be down a little bit lower, so I mixed that up. Down the very bottom is where I keep sort of like our root vegetables, potatoes and pumpkins, because it's dark and cool down there. And I also keep our blender and the things that we use for smoothies so I can pull them out when I need to. The biggest change for me doing things this way was I moved out those sort of plastic containers that were taking up some really big prime real estate up to a higher level so that they are out of the way and that the things that we need to access are really quick and easy. Now, in an ideal world, an organizing truth that I would tell you is that you shouldn't have items like behind other items. They get forgotten, it's harder to maintain. But honestly, if you have a deep pantry or a weird pantry, sometimes you just have to do things that aren't the best practice. And by having those things all accessible to everyone, that is my favorite way to organize. I would love to see some pictures of your guys' pantry. So if you haven't already, please join our Facebook group or our Discord and send me a picture of your pantry.